Good morning, everybody. I would like to welcome all participants. Our panelists CA Neeraj Basu, Group CFO, Blue Star Limited, CA Vinith, who is the CFO, Mindtree Limited, and our moderator, Ms. Ruchi Maheshwari. Ruchi Maheshwari was a chartered accountant with over 23 years of extensive corporate experience in the domain of banking and financial sector. She started her career through campus placement and Unit Trust of India and subsequently moved to MNC organizations like American Express and Royal Bank of Scotland. Her career journey helped her rise to senior leadership roles and gain expertise in various fields. Her last role at RBS was Vice President, Risk and Compliance. She quit the said role in 2019 to get into setting her own consulting firm and venturing into the entrepreneurial world. She has a flair for new technologies like RPA, blockchain, and supports organizations to evaluate on the same along with the continuing to explore further on the rising fintech domain. She also conducts mentoring sessions for grooming talents and has also led diversity initiatives within the roles she has handled. So now I am handling the virtual screen to Ms. Ruchi for further proceedings.
Thanks, Shalini, and it was really nice to kind of, be a part. It was really an honor to be a part of such a session. And this, I think, is a great initiative by the Institute to kind of help people understand that what's the role of a CFO. Because, and this session, a sneak peek session, is supposed to be a very enlightening session. And it's a pleasure to be the host and the moderator for such session. So today I have really an esteemed panel here. Both my panelists, both the CFOs have extensive experience, and definitely it's going to help our viewers and our young chartered accountants to understand that something which is their dream, and maybe was a dream for Vineet and Neeraj also at one point in time, but how they achieved it, what are the, positives, negatives, how can they save their career and kind of, navigate in their careers to reach this stage. So that's something that is, the motive of today's session. And let me start by introducing the panelists today. I'll start with Vineet Teredesai. Vineet, as Shalini mentioned, is the Group CFO of Mindtree, and he has over 25 years of experience within the finance, accounting, auditing, taxation, fundraising, risk management, merger acquisition, and corporate restructuring kind of roles. And this is why, it's good to kind of read all of that. The reason being is that's what also entails and tells our people that what really a CFO does. So because, a CFO is not only, as we say, a chief financial officer, he is not only the finance guy in today's time. The roles has changed. And that's the kind of extensive experience the CFOs bring to the table in any company. And Vineet has, moved many organizations during the growth. When I say many organizations, which have helped him in terms of the growth in his career. He was part of he was part of ABB as a management trainee, then moved on to Bajaj, KPIT, and various other organizations. And I'm not going to kind of go into the list because the list may be longer. But yes, that's where he's kind of moved on, coming from a core finance role to really an elaborate role at Mindtree. He has, during his experience, along with chartered accountancy, he holds, a CWA. He is a cost and works accountant. He is a CPA from the US, and he's also completed a general management program from the MIT Solon School of Business. So that's a bit of Vineet. Hi, Vineet, and welcome to the show today.
Yeah, hi, good morning, everyone. I hope I'm audible and visible to everyone.
Yes, you cannot hide away, Vineet. You're the spotlight for the day. So, and I would now like to introduce my other panelist, which is Neeraj Basu. Neeraj is the CFO at Blue Star. I'm sure all of us know Blue Star because that's I'm sure each one of us have touched one of their products somewhere within our career, within our lives, in our personal lives. And as I said earlier for Vineet, all our CFOs, and especially even Neeraj, comes with vast experience, wide specializations, and He's also moved around his career, but just to kind of highlight some of his specialities, Neeraj brings in the specialization of business strategy, enterprise risk management, corporate and capital structuring, his experience with capital markets, investor relations, governance, compliance, M&A, and definitely, talent and people development and mentoring is something that, as you grow, becomes of your role. So that's about Neeraj. And we will know about them in more details as we go through. But this is just a very, kind of a tip of an iceberg kind of a thing for my panelists. Neeraj, I'd just like to add, along with his chartered accountancy, also is a company secretary, and he has got a certification from the Institute of Management, UK. So welcome, Neeraj, on the panel today.
Thank you very much, Ruchi. Good morning to you and my co-panelists, as well as all the listeners and people who are participating. Firstly, I'm very thankful to the Institute of Chartered Accountants for inviting me to be here on this panel, and very happy to join you for the session, Ruchi. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Neeraj. So I am not going to waste anybody's time, and I think I am more interested rather than the others on the show to hear about your journeys and hear about yourselves, because, I definitely feel, and I did say at the start itself, saying that, anybody who gets into chartered accountancy, the first thing is I'm going to be the next CFO of an organization, right? But I think that somewhere it's within ourselves, the level for a chartered accountant is a CFO. So, but I think I want to really understand how that journey has been. But before we really get into how that journey is going to be, my first question is going to be for Vineet. And Vineet, what really inspired you to become a chartered accountant? What made you think about it?
Very interesting, actually, Ruchi. Honestly, if I go back to my academics prior to school days, I was not that great. Nobody was serious about. Nobody had a clue. In my school days, I didn't even know what chartered accountancy was. Honestly, the inclination was to get into the science stream because it attracted a lot of limelight. People believed that the engineers changed the world. So, let's do that. The good part was I did well in my final ACC exam, but I didn't do enough to secure an admission, at least in the initial days, into the science stream. So the natural choice was to go to a commerce stream, and I got into commerce stream. And what do you do after becoming a commerce? Either you become an accountant or you become a corporate guy and try to do something. There were three career options, I would say, which were prevalent. Two of them were only after post-graduation, which was the chartered accountancy and the company secretary. And the cost and works accountant was the one which was available along with immediately after year 12th. The good part, I was good in accountancy, so that helped me in grabbing. I almost stood the highest in my college in all the 5 years as far as my accountancy exams were concerned. I completed my cost and works accountancy along with my graduation, and then I immediately went on to become a chartered accountant. Why? As I said, chartered accountancy was the most respectable profession that was recognized from a commerce field. Again, very premature at that point of time in terms of really what do you do after becoming a chartered accountant. But as the journey went on, you really understood. One of the good part in my career that happened was that my articleship was with Dalal & Shah, who had most of its clients into the corporate field. So in my early stages of my chartered accountancy, I got a flavor of what a corporate world works. And that became a natural choice. Somehow I was never inclined to get into a practice. At that point of time, practice was only considered to be a sort of, people who are there to save clients' taxes. That was the perception that was there. And I was not that great in thinking, But so corporate world attracted me, and I went on into my various journeys into various organizations. So initially 3 years completely or doing an audits with companies like Bajaj Auto, Kirloskar, Kalyani's, all big conglomerates at that point of time. So when I moved after the chartered accountancy into the actual other side of the table, I was not surprised in terms of how things operate. It sometimes takes a little bit of people a little bit skeptical about it in terms of moving on the other side. And I think so that journey went on in a pretty seamless fashion. So that's how I went and became a chartered accountant and got into the commerce field. Really, no strategic decision. It was more of destiny rather than anything else.
And I think that was a great destiny for you, for all of us, and I'm sure for the institute to have an alumni like you. So thanks, Vineet. Neat. Thinking I have a similar question for you, is to kind of, what made you decide to be a chartered accountant?
So I was listening to Vineet. Actually, I can simply say ditto what Vineet said. So a little bit about myself. So I grew up in a small town, small by the standards of Mumbai's and Delhi's of the world. So I grew up in Dehradun. That's where I did my schooling from, and pretty much Dehradun is very good. It's a good place for schooling and the basic academic education. However, it does not have too many options beyond schooling, and there was only one college which offered commerce. So very similar to what Vineet said. Look, I was pretty average student when I was in class 10 and barely managed to manage the entire length and breadth of subjects. So science was a complete no-no for me. And I was looking forward to completing class 10. This was 1984. And to get rid of the physics and chemistry and bio and all the... So I was in that frame of mind, and obviously then the choices were very limited. Take commerce in 11th and 12th, and that happened. I developed interest for commerce subjects, economics, commerce, accounts, and did reasonably well in 11th and 12th. And then, interestingly, like I said, Dehradun didn't have any commerce college, and only one college. If there are people from Dehradun listening to this this particular event, they will relate with this. There's only one college, DAV, which offered commerce, and since there was only one college, they had no choice to say no to anyone. So, like, everyone, come on. So, hundreds and hundreds of commerce students. It is around that time I started thinking, okay, fine, BCom to kar liya. Now what? Ho jayega, but what to do next? So the choices were only two. One is try and do MBA post completing the graduation, or do ICWA or CS or CA. So MBA was kind of ruled out because the family situation was that I needed to be in Dehradun. I needed to continue in Dehradun. So I got into CA. That's how it happened. There was absolutely no career counseling. There was no internet. There was no... our friend circle was as aware, as enlightened as probably any one of us was. And listening to Vineet, I guess, it's interesting. I guess we've all grown up in a similar environment where parents used to endorse, okay, fine, kya karna hai, CA karna hai, chalo karo, shuru kar do. So shuru kar diya. And so I did my articles from, again, a very, very modest sized firm in Dehradun. Bulk of my articleship was doing a lot of accounting work. And in hindsight, I feel that was absolutely the right thing for me to do at that point in time. The hardcore, small-sized, mid-sized firm, as you can imagine, would do. Accounting, taxation, audits were for the sake of doing audits kind of a thing. But that gave me a very good grounding into some of the concepts, which started helping as I got deeper into the entire course. So that's how it got started. So I mean, very honestly, it wasn't a plan. It sort of it worked out along the way, and as I got deeper into it, I guess the success one achieves. Luckily for me, I was able to clear the exams in the first attempts, which in a place like Dehradun was again there was a lot of hawa around. You will take at least 3, 4, 5 attempts to clear exams. The principal under whom I did my articleship, he was when I joined articleship in '88. He had been practicing for around 25 years, and I realized after joining articleship that the last 25 years, not even one person had cleared CA in that firm. So it was kind of a shock as well as a challenge that kind of I took. So I happened to be the first person in that firm to qualify and complete. So like I said, so once success starts, then the passion gets created and the interest levels starts to go up. So yes, that's how I completed my CA. In fact, I was there in Dehradun right until appearing for the CA final exams in '92, and after appearing for the exams, I decided for career reasons to move out from the city because the city didn't have any career opportunities. That's how I came to Delhi, and the rest of the career started from there. That's a little background about myself.
Thanks, Neeraj. That's really nice. And I think if I talk, because I am also a 90s ka CA as compared to a 2000s CA, so I see the world's changing, and once you are a commerce student, I think CA is like the doctor or the engineer for science. And that's the kind of I put it as, and it's just your dedication. So no, it's really nice to know, because I think I have seen through my interactions that everybody's story is unique, but similar in some shape or form. So we can see that for our panelists. So let's move on. Thank you. I think that's really nice. And I'm sure it's really encouraging for others to know that it doesn't mean that you're in an organization or maybe a CA firm where you've not seen success, but you could be the first person to see the success, right? Or even if you're from the best of the best firms, it doesn't mean that you kind of get through. But yes, it's your persistence, it's your knowledge, it's your interaction that is going to help you, and your success story is going to be different to the others. Right, so thanks. So Neeraj, while we are with you, just one or two things, just continuing on this, because you're coming from a small town, moving to a bigger town now, and being at the best level of an organization. So some 2-3 things that you've really, felt, or maybe some important learnings in your career journey that you've had, if you would just like to kind of share with us.
Sure. So let me continue that story from when I left Dehradun. So you can say I had since I appeared for the final exams, and as luck would have it, I passed. I cleared. So it was just about 2 months interval in between after appearing, and I started off my career with again a CA firm, practicing CA firm in Nehru Place in Delhi, a firm called Mehra Goel and Company. If there are people from Mehra Goel and Company listening, they may not even know me because I was there for a very short period of time. So finally when I cleared the final exams, and as luck would have it, in fact, those were the days when CA final exams, either you had to wait for a newspaper print to check your roll number, or since I was in Delhi, I went to the institute's office in CPE, in ITO, to check the results, because the results aa gaya hai, that we got to know. So I went to check the results, and obviously elated, I had cleared. And as I was there, and this is all fate, I saw in the institute's office on the notice board, there was this ad for management trainees that Escorts Limited had put up. They were seeking, freshly qualified chartered accountants to join them as management trainees in their internal audit department. So that was the requirement. And since I was there, I saw that ad, I took note, and I applied. I applied for that role, and I got that. I got interviewed, and finally I got selected for a management trainee's role. That's how I started. Now, to your question, see, I was very clear in my mind. So though I had qualified, I had a job with, and that point in time, Escorts was a really different organization, and it was very well diversified. Now, of course, Escorts has changed shapes. So it was a different company, and a much sought after company from a manufacturing standpoint for aspiring finance professionals to get into. So I was aware that, look, while yes, it's looking good so far, I have the qualification, I have a management trainee role, but the fact is, since in my articleship I have got exposed to a certain kind of practical work, I will have to start from scratch. So the first point which kind of has stuck on with me for the last 30 years is awareness. So being aware that look, these are the areas. While yes, I have that academic knowledge. I know what the theory is, but the fact is, I'll have to learn. I'll have to learn afresh and very quickly. So being aware is one of the things that I feel has helped all through the career so far for me. And once you are aware, see, once you know which are the areas you got to really work on. I'll tell you another area, because again, being from a small town, obviously one was not never exposed to any opportunities to interact, engage, or that confidence level to speak in a public forum was just not there. While of course in the schools, we used to get into debates and elocution, but that was at a school level. So how do you carry yourself? How do you carry yourself in let's say in an environment which is a different environment, and shedding that tag of that look, coming from a small town, getting into a larger place, etc. So that was the second awareness, that I need to do something about the entire learning how to communicate, and probably learning how to communicate effectively. And it takes time. It doesn't, for a 19, 20-year-old, it doesn't really, it doesn't happen overnight. So awareness helped me. Awareness around the areas that I needed to polish. One good thing, again in hindsight, I feel I never allowed myself to get into a comfort zone. That look, now अभी तो हो या CS, अभी degree मिल गई, अभी तो life बन गई. I never got into that mode ever, and I've tried not to get into that mode even now. So you talked about that I've switched roles, I've switched jobs, and somehow for me, whenever I switched a role, it ended up for me a shift of the sector as well, a shift of the industry. So and that again was not planned. I had not really planned it in this way that I will move from industry A to industry B to industry C. But it happened, and I was open for that. The reason I was able to do that is because one, like I said, I was clear that I should challenge myself periodically. I should push myself out of the comfort zone. When I got a sense I am getting into a comfort zone, and being aware that there are these pockets of learning, pockets of knowledge, skills, competencies that are that I might not have got exposed to in the past, I need to do something about it. I think these are some of the, important aspects which now I can say with confidence. Though I don't think there was any guidance that came, but it somehow happened. But I can say with great degree of confidence that if you don't allow yourself to settle down into a comfort zone, feel कि चलो ये profile अभी मिल गया है, and then fine, I know enough about the company, I know enough about the industry sector, people, I am comfortable, they are comfortable, everyone is happy. That sort of is something which puts you back at some stage. The other important learning which I can share is periodically refresh your skills and your aptitude. And I can tell you, 30 years ago, the role, for the first 5 years, the work that I was doing, the first 5 years of my professional career, even first 10 or 15 years, I can say, is completely redundant today, or even became redundant 5 years ago. So if one feels that, look, I've learned, I know tax, I know treasury, I know accounting, I know MIS, I know this, that, and the others, and that will help me carry on for the next 25, 30 years, I'm sorry, that doesn't happen. So that is something you need to be very extremely aware of, that your skills and your competencies will have a finite life cycle. They will come to an end. You got to keep replacing them, refreshing them, changing them. So these are 2 or 3 things I thought I'd like to share, which have helped me. And I guess other, the achievements or whatever roles you get to occupy are an outcome. Frankly, I never planned for any role. The roles happen. You just keep focusing on yourself and your own profile, and how do you polish that. Long answer, sorry.
No, thanks, Neeraj. And I think it's really insightful, because these are some of these secrets, I can say, coming out from your pockets. Difficult to get out of you, get out of you in the sense, get out of anyone. So I'm sure our viewers would be really happy for that. Winnie, just coming on to you on this, like if I see a comparative thing, you've had, you've been a metro guy, if I say, being with the best firm, one of the top-notch firms, if I could say, at that point in time. And you started, and you were very clear in terms of being with the corporate, right? And while if I see your journey, you've also actually changed sectors, segments, and a lot of stuff. So how do you, because normally, I'm asking this question to you and not Neeraj, but normally the perception is that, yaar, hum just company mein hai, or just sector mein hai, let's grow there, because people or even HR will be happier to have the same kind of mindset, same kind of an expertise. So while you've actually changed, break some norms and stuff like this, so what's really helped you, or did you really plan it out? Was it planned? How was your stuff in terms of moving? How's that career graph been for you? And whether moving sectors has been positive, how do you look at it?
Yeah, thanks. I would say, again, to start with, when you select your first jobs, rather you don't select it, the company selects you, which industry you work for. We were not in the rank holder category. So, and again, it's not that the rank holders are the best, they get the best of the career. It's an entry advantage, you can say. Beyond that, I think so, it's all your capability and performance that drives down and defines your success. As I said, I got initially into the engineering industry, then into an auto manufacturing company. And last 21 years, I've been into the technology industry, honestly. Though multiple companies, but I think so. What is important is how are you groomed in your initial days. That defines your character. In terms of how it shapes during your character. The people whom you work with, the people who mentor you directly or indirectly, and sort of they become whether by choice or not, they become your idol. In terms of how your thinking process works. So honestly, with the initial days of my career, both with ABB and Bajaj Auto, it was a very entrepreneurial sort of mindset that got built in. Think out of the box constantly. We were never thrown into the mundane jobs of doing the things. And I'm not saying mundane jobs are bad. Let me be very honest. But our circumstances were we were thrown into sort of what Neeraj mentioned. Constantly, don't become complacent and get out of your comfort zone. And that was basically an important driving factor that if you look at my different companies as well as my careers, I became more as a generalist rather than as a specialist. And this is something which you at some point of time need to realize. Nothing is wrong with either one of them. The only difference is a generalist sort of has a slightly wider avenues of work. Even which are not pertaining to his core profession. While a specialist may gets into one sort of a business and then, you keep on excelling there. So I think so that's the real difference between working in any industry. I don't think so. At that point of time, when I joined, my father had worked only with one company for 35 years. So for me, making so many changes is like a completely going in challenging his ideology. But again, it was circumstantial. During my father's career days, there were not many choices, and loyalty and responsibility of the family were the core of the thing. So don't try to be adventurous. We were slightly beneficial in our time frame, whereby we could take certain risks and do few things which allowed us to change the jobs. But let me be very honest with you. When I changed my job, honestly, I didn't change just my, one company to another. I changed my profiles. I started as a management trainee, then moved into Bajaj Auto. In Bajaj Auto also, I never did core accounting. Core accounting in the sense, not the core business of the organization. I was into the treasury function, which was managing almost 2,500 crores worth of treasury at that point of time. And we didn't have a very strong capital market regulator. Neither capital market norms were very strong. So we invested into multiple things. We had to do personal computers or desktop computers had just arrived at that point of time. And we had to learn. Nobody gave us a training about how to learn Excel and all. We all experimented, faltered, and delivered half-hearted initially, and then excelled over a period of time. Today's Excel or anything what you'll see is the learnings probably of all the lessons we have learned in life, which Microsoft has eventually sort of implemented and made everyone's life easier. But the point, coming to the point is make career change. I always recommend to people, don't make job changes, make career changes. At any point of time, people will get something more in terms of compensation from one company to another. There is very rarely a fact that somebody gets so compensation rise is taken for granted. Titles again are very illusionary. You can they sort of are what you can say, you're fooling yourself. I can change my job title and tell I'm doing something great than what I used to do earlier, but honestly, for the external world, it doesn't matter as far as you're truthful to yourself that this career change is helping you in terms of driving down the ultimate goal that you want to achieve. I think so that is what is important. So coming back to that earlier point, as I mentioned, is being a generalist versus a specialist is a very conscious decision. I never liked getting into those one job and doing the same thing. It gave me a diversity into a lot of how the business runs. At the end of the day, if your business is not successful, however talented you might be, you'll never be successful. You're not here to become blockade of business. By our academic profession, we are always told black and white. We are groomed in that way. But it's very important to understand the business side of it. And whatever rules, whatever standards, accounting standards, everything is stated in the spirit. As we say, content is the form is more important rather than the content. I think so that's very, very important when you are looking and doing a lot of things in your life. So the industry, last 21 years in my IT industry has been very definitive. When we started, it was more of a body shopping business in the technology industry. It was all people, skills multiplied by hours or daily rates, and that was the simple business model. Today, the business is completely changed. You don't go and approach any customer saying, "I will provide you 100 people." That's taken for granted. And 5 years, 10 years from now, probably I don't need to even tell that because the machines will do most of the work for me. So the world has changed. One of the things which I also realized over a period of time, that if you don't understand what your business is doing, you will not be ever a good business partner. And that's why I went down to MIT actually in the middle of my career, self-sponsored myself to go there and learn. Because at the end of the day, if you're signing some checks for investments and if you don't understand what those investments are supposed to yield for your company, you're just a rubber stamp CFO, and I never wanted that to be. So I went there. It opened up a lot of eyes. I used to like technology. I used to always embrace technology, but MIT changed the perspective in terms of how a technology can enable business. So every time after 12 months from MIT, somebody asked me, "What did you really gain?" I used to say that on my way to office, I always used to see multiple things, new things coming up. But after MIT, it sort of tell, hey, you could do with the technology, you could change and this can become a good business model. So that mindset change was a very, very important thing that brought into it. So don't be complacent. Learn as much as what you can. I can't tell you at the age I am today, I still feel there is so much to achieve and so much to learn. And it is a never-ending journey. Make a choice at the early point of your career, whether you want to be a generalist or a specialist. Generalist will typically open up more avenues for you. But if you want to be specialized in it, something, I think so that's also a good career choice. You shouldn't regret it at a later point of time. That's the only reason why you have to decide on it. And challenge yourself. I think so. Never become complacent. If you become a chartered accountant, remember it's only an entry advantage for you. It's not a life guarantee for you that you will be accepted everywhere. And there is a far difference between what you learn during your academics and what the real world is. So please understand the business, stay close to the business. You will be much more appreciated and much more applauded for your efforts and work that you do.
Thanks, Vineet. And I think that's really nice. And I agree with you because sometimes being a jack is also good, rather than being a master. It's what you see. I consider jack and master two sides of the same coin. So it's like, which side are you seeing and which side do you accept and want to move on? So you're right. Actually, while you were talking about being a generalist, being a lot of such things, it just clicked me that, while we do our chartered accountancy curriculum, our curriculum offers a vast variety of things. And so I just thought I'll just get your view and maybe Neeraj's view also on it. That again, I know that things have changed versus the time that you and I would have done our articleship and education versus today. But did that variety of subjects, an array of subjects that we do, because we do accounting, we do costing, we do auditing, we do risk compliance some way or the other within our career, into our curriculum, I mean to say. So what is your perspective and how has that helped you somewhere, in the career?
No, honestly, see, as I said, the core learning that you get from in your academics always remains to your heart, So I may not be today the most expert on accounting and auditing, but I have sufficient amount of definitely knowledge and experience that somebody can't fool me. If there is something new, you can easily relate. So that's core. That I don't think so things can change at that perspective. But eventually, I think so in our case, we never had technology as a part and parcel of our curriculum. I think so now it is a part and parcel of the curriculum. But again, the world is changing very dramatically. Even take Neeraj business, it is at some point of time you have to go and with buttons, everything is to be done. Today, you can sit in a room and control the air conditioning, the temperature, everything. So technology has become a lot of back end for any industry, any work you do. And it's just going to become more and more stronger component of it. In my past organization of KPIT, I can tell you, we used to do all engineering work for application work for cars and the passenger vehicles and the commercial vehicles. Our customers were all premium customers, premium segment customers. But the important part of that was, you thought that why do you pay a premium to any of these vehicles? It's basically because of the technology that goes inside. You don't realize the amount of efforts that goes in a car. Typically, the amount of code that goes in these days is much more than probably it goes in an airplane. Because the airplane at least has a defined certain set of operating methods, while car is completely. So technology you need to have, and I think so that should become much more intense. And when I say technology, you don't need to learn coding and all. I don't think so that's the intent. But what's an important part? What are the different applications? People, if they are able to absorb that much better, I think so that will allow the curriculum to become even more stronger. Today, when I go and interview people, many people don't know what our company does. People still have that mindset, we are a body shopping organization, and it's as I said, it's a completely myth now. It was existing at some point of time 2 decades ago, but this industry has evolved completely. The second part I would say is also your on practice learning, what you can call as an industrial learning. I think so that should be a part and parcel of the curriculum. Irrespective, the articleship only gives you a limited amount of experience, but I think so the industrial training can be a game changer because you can understand the academic as well as the practical aspect of what things go, and that probably might be an important changing factor in our industry. When I went for CPA, CPA, one of the thing which it has a pre-qualification is, there is no syllabus, there is no guidance material, there is nothing comes as a past questionnaires which you can go attempt and everything. It's a latest real-time sort of a syllabus, and anything can get, and there is only yes and no answer to the majority of the question paper. So you have to be, the expectation is you have a basic understanding of your deep knowledge of your thing, and then only you qualify. So you don't need to be a graduate or anything. You need to have certain amount of accounting experience before you actually appear for. So that sort of a mindset has to come in our curriculum also. I think so the institute is making a lot of changes. and they are all in the right direction. It just the intensity of those things probably needs to be increased.
Thanks, Vineet. Neeraj, what's your view on it? Because things have changed, but definitely our career curriculum has also changed. How do you look at it?
Yeah, no, I agree with what Vineet has just said. Obviously, curriculum would have changed substantially in the last 2 or 3 decades. See, what the CA curriculum teaches anyone, few things. Firstly, of course, this wide variety of subjects that are covered certainly broadens the horizon around so many related topics, related aspects, and related subjects. But what it teaches very early on, which is actually quite useful, is the relevance and importance of multitasking. Because unless you learn how to multitask and manage the examination expectations, that's where I guess the challenge really lies. So multitasking is one attribute which you get to learn fairly early on. And the other thing you get to learn is the entire aspects of time management and the discipline. So now these are very important words. I'm saying in addition to, of course, the functional side of the academic knowledge, that is a given in whichever syllabus, whichever shape, size, and form. So how to multitask, how to manage time, and how to have a structure and a discipline around whatever you do. And these are very important skills to have even before you start working. But I agree with Vineet that this I don't know what is the shape and form now. But unless there is this practice, there are two major, or I'd say three major pockets of gap. Because I do interact with freshly qualified chartered accountants, fresh from campus even now. So first and foremost is the communication piece. So unless freshly qualified chartered accountants are confident to articulate, convey what they have learned in a form that is relevant. So that still is a gap, which I guess something needs to be done, because most of that learning honestly happens after someone starts working, in whichever form, whether in practice or in industry. It doesn't necessarily happen even after somebody is qualified. That's the first bit. The second part is around getting to apply the academic knowledge, and that's where Vineet's suggestion is very good, which is consider making industrial training rather than an option, a mandatory part of maybe 6 months, 1 year industrial training, which is there in ICAI requires that for the company secretary candidates. So they need that SMTP program. But that's also very important to buffer up the knowledge with the industrial exposure. And the third part, which is extremely important, which I think takes some people many years to understand, is the need and importance to understand the business first. Because see, the way we get groomed in this profession, we are so deeply focused around the functional subjects, those 5, 7, 10 subjects: accounting, financial management, costing, audit, whatever. We become really experts in that. We somewhere lose track of how does this connect up with the business? What is the connection? How does financial management get connected with the business strategy? Because end of the day, financial management or financial strategy, risk management, risk strategy, auditing, all is subservient to the overall business objectives. That is not, in a way, either formally taught, and that's where I guess the MBA courses have the edge, or they have the difference, because somewhere the management of business and the connection of dots, I guess, if this part, these two things, how to articulate, communicate, and connect your functional aspects with the business, whichever business, even if you're in practice, end of the day, your client has a business, right? So there is an end of the day of business interest involved. How do you relate with business? How do you start understanding the business? So a lot of young chartered accountants, they end up not understanding this enough, because the focus is again, I want to specialize in GST, I want to specialize in treasury, I want a forex role, I want to do MIS, I want to do capital market. All right, great. But then finally, do you understand the business? Or what would you need to do to understand the business? and connect yourself with that, and then the knowledge, functional knowledge with that. These dots, unless we consciously start bridging, and so we do that a lot. So like we in Blue Star, we hire every year 4 to 5 freshly qualified CS from the campus, and so that's the first thing we try to do is to find. Of course, now you're qualified, you know what you're supposed to know, but then now important thing is to start relating with the business strategy. I guess these are some of the areas where something more can be done, some more steps can be taken. But again, going back to the main point, I guess it's incumbent because the institute can only do as much.
Yeah, and actually, sorry to interrupt, but I was just going to mention that because, as we all know, there are so many sectors, so many segments, so many, variety of stuff that, sometimes it's difficult to put everything into the head, So I think what's more important, what I understand from all of you is it's about the mindset that students should come with. They need to be more open and acceptable as compared to just being very, fixed minds, watertight compartments is how I kind of describe them, because I've seen the younger generation being with a little more watertight compartment as compared to what we were. When we started, maybe we were very open and I remember Vineet saying, that's what I got. I didn't have a choice to select the company, but the company had the choice to select me. Absolutely. So I think that's what helps us. But no, I definitely take your points. Since we're talking about this, Neeraj, just wanted to understand the role of CFO. We all know has changed, right, over the period of time as we've kind of grown. We've gone global. The economies have actually expanded. There are no barriers in terms of regions, countries, and all of that, and organizations are also where we all work with are more like MNCs. You're working across, so there's a bigger role of governance that comes in, right? And I know that as Blue Star, you've been awarded the Golden Peacock Award for excellence in corporate governance in 2020 last year. So how did that happen? Because normally, like as we say, a chartered accountant को तो finance आता है, तो ये governance कहाँ से आया? Was that automatically built in, or as you said, because you've been supporting the business? So a little bit on your award and how did that work out?
Yeah, no, thanks for that. So, I guess firstly, governance, or actually it's a slightly larger subject. It's around, GRC, all elements of governance, risk and compliance, as a concept. And of course, this new theme of ESG is also taking roots. By virtue of our background, what are the distinct advantages we have? And I'm talking generally here. Because we are managing finances, we have a 360-degree view of what's going on in the organization, within the organization and outside the organization, right? We have an inside view. We also have an outside-in view. Because we talk to bankers, we talk to credit rating agencies, we talk to investors, we talk to the external world as well. We are supposed to talk. So since we have the advantage of a 360-degree view, and also we are trained very well to connect the dots effectively, to understand the implications of what is happening around us and how to relate that again in the context of the business strategy. Now, the governance agenda, the governance theme, or enterprise risk management theme are nothing new. They are not new themes. They've been around for many, many years. What has been happening though in the last 5, 10, 12, 15 years, the awareness, the levels of transparency being forced by the regulators, expected by the stakeholders, be it government, be it shareholders, banks, etc. The expectation levels have undergone a significant change. So what Vineet talked about, in his early days in Treasury, probably the regulatory capital markets environment was not as evolved in India in those days. Now it's a sea change. The role of a CFO is that of a KMP, a key management person, and that puts a lot of responsibility, fiduciary as well as personal obligation on the finance head to ensure a few things. So governance is no longer an agenda, or risk management is no longer an agenda that chartered accountants or CFOs, and I'm talking generically here because even chartered accountants in practice, it's no longer an optional, it's no longer a nice to know subject. So that's how I look at it. So obviously one has to go deeper into, what are the international norms. Of course, there are regulatory norms which one has to be familiar with, SEBI requirements, LODR requirements, company law, and so on. So that is anyway a given. So how we got started in Blue Star on some of these, again, I won't emphasize as much on the award side. So we said, look, okay, fine. So we've been doing few things. We know, yes, we have looked at other companies, comparable good companies. We've seen what are their governance structures, how they are managing their board affairs, how are the, various things, various actions being taken around ensuring a good quality outcome. Now, how do we assess ourselves? So it was more a need to, or an idea to get evaluated, that rather than just having an inside-in perspective, that get somebody from outside to look at what we are doing and give us some feedback. That's where this Golden Peacock evaluation came on the table, because two things. Firstly, what you get as a company, you get an award, great. If you don't get an award, if you don't get recognized at that level, the least you will get is a feedback report. And that was our driver. So we said, look, let's at least get ourselves evaluated. And this is a very good jury that actually evaluates all the applications, and it's a fairly extensive application process. So we said the least we'll get is a feedback report. At least we'll learn, and at least we'll plug. We'll plug whatever gaps we have, and at least we can improve. So that was the thinking at that point in time. And as things happened, of course, we did that in 2019, 2019, we applied for the award for risk management. We didn't get it in the first time. So we got a feedback report. So that helped us to take few more actions. And so it is, again, the theme is to learn, and the theme is to apply that. And believe me, it helps a lot in widening the horizon, because what these kind of evaluations do, they expose us to case studies from international platform. Other companies, what are they doing, how are they doing, and what are the areas, some examples, and ideas do click. When you read someone else's work, you do get ideas, and that's how I guess things can only improve. When you're looking at a peer, you're asking, requesting. In fact, we also wanted, we have experimented with this very successfully. We tied up with few of our peer companies, and we invited the secretarial heads to come in, just do a peer review. Not required by under any regulation. We said, can you just look at our process? Of course, we don't need to expose any confidential stuff, but so we did that as well a couple of years ago. So, and on a reciprocal basis, we said, look, if you're interested, we can offer you a similar, let's say, input as well. So those are, I guess, it's mainly to do with the desire to learn and improve, and ensure that we are not just doing for the sake of compliance or for the sake of meeting a regulatory obligation, but genuinely for the stakeholders involved, because the stakeholders are watching us very, very closely now in the last few years.
Thanks. Vineet, I have a similar question for you, in the sense, as a CFO, and especially CFO of a listed company, globally having presence, there are a lot of things that have changed from an accounting perspective also. While we were doing Indian accounting, while you kind of move on to IFRS or, US GAAP and the various other things. And as you're with a listed company, both of you are part of listed companies, but if I'm taking the question for you as such, you would have SEBI requirements, you would have, I'm sure while your career was there, you would have questions around IPO experience and the others. So, what's your take on managing this within your career? If you could just shed some light for our people, because learning from experience is definitely very good to understand and, kind of take it forward.
Yeah, see, as we mentioned, as we were talking about in our earlier question, the institute and the academics can do only a certain thing. It can prepare your foundation. After that, it's all learning on the job. Honestly, the projects or the experiences which I got, none of them probably were prescribed in any of the academic books for anyone to learn and do it. Now, for example, I keep on, when I initially worked in most of the multinational companies, and I was not technically, though I worked with listed companies, not in the forefront of running a listed company in a KMP position. People do ask me, you don't have an experience of So, yeah, I didn't have an experience, but it's not like my company, I couldn't have gone and done a public company. My company didn't need that to be done. Or many people, I work fortunately with all the companies who were cash rich. So many people ask, hey, you don't have a fundraising experience. I said, yeah, that does not mean I don't know fundraising, So I think so. These are all the, taboos, if I had to call it, in people's mind. But I think so. The world around is changing. If an IPO was an prerequisite for a CFO, listed company CFO, most of the CFOs of listed companies would be constantly rotating jobs, And when they went public for the first time, I'm sure, somebody didn't have that experience. So somebody learned on the way and did a lot of things. And today, I would say, on the one hand, the governance standards from the SEBI or the capital market regulators, etc., have increased, but they have also become, I would say, a good amount, I would say, templatized also. It's you just need to improvise in terms of what needs to be done. So it's I think so that's where the maximum amount of efforts go. So don't consider an experience as a constraint if you don't have. I think so. I'm ready to defy that. On the way, I'll give another example. When I joined KPIT, and this was the erstwhile KPIT, they had just announced that they were going to do a merging of their IT business with Birlasoft, and they were then going to demerge that business, auto engineering business, into a separate organization. Honestly, this was never thought of. There was no real case available. I got fortunately a choice to execute that entire transaction, demerge the auto business, and take the company list again on the exchanges. Now, this is something, this was an opportunity that was in front of me. I could have played a role of being on the sideline, keeping my traditional CFO hat. But, I took that as a challenge. We learned all the way, including my CEO. We are all learning constantly as the transaction got announced, what was being thought for, what was being expected. On the way, we had a lot of obstacles. We passed them. And at the end of the day, it's, if your intent is in the right direction, I think so things fall in place. There is always a solution which is always available. You have to just keep your eyes and ideas open. That's how I think so the things work. So IPO experience, etc. Again, it's not a very big deal. I went down to the Bombay Stock Exchange. They had a 4-day process whereby they explained what are the norms of doing and taking company public. 50% of was already known. Probably I didn't know it in the clauses or numbers, etc. And you don't need to do no. As far as you have that in the back of your mind, I think so the things fall in place. So learn. Again, coming back to that earlier thing, 80% of your job is actually going to be out of syllabus, what you have learned, and 20% is going to be the traditional. Today, our CFO profile, when I joined, there was nothing called as a CFO. It was a general manager, accounts was the real. His focus was financial reporting and good governance around the accounting. Things have changed. Today, as I said, business learning. Now you're a part and parcel of the strategic team. CFO's role has evolved. Like if I had to give an analogy, if your CEO is driving the car, you are a rear view mirror of that car. The CEO cannot look at you and drive the car, neither can he ignore you and drive the car. So that's the role of a CFO. So it's very, very closely associated. You are a strong business partner. You need to understand the business. Your core governance, rules, regulations, compliance, everything has to be absolutely, that's sacrosanct. That's the basic hygiene, none of us CEO comes and tells, hey, let's go and violate the laws and do something different. That we never have that discussions. It's always do what's right. That's taken for granted. Now within that, there will be challenges because now the companies have become global. So every day we keep on exploring new geographies, and every geography has its own advantages, disadvantages. They have also transformed over a period of time. In my HSBC experience, I have managed geographies like Brazil, Poland, Canada, then China, Malaysia, so these are not easy geographies necessarily. China is it's a great country, but it's also a very difficult country in terms of some the regulatory aspects of it. So you have to be very careful. Same is the case with Brazil. It's very exciting from a traveler's perspective versus what the reality on the ground is. So you have to think differently. You have to learn on the ground. None of these experiences, as I said, are going to be taught. The good part is today knowledge is freely available. With a click of button, you can go and you can get 10 ideas and suggestions that are available. Okay, you don't need to necessarily go into deep dive, but take the advantage of at least understanding it, and things will fall in place. If your intent is right, I think so things will fall in place.
Yeah, right, Vinny. Vinny, then I think you've really touched. I'm feeling nice because I'm getting meat for my questions from your answers itself. So I'm really happy about it. So, as you mentioned, Vineet, in today's time, when you're a CFO of a global organization, it's not limited only to India, right? You kind of interact with people across locations, countries, and all of that, and they have different regulations, as you mentioned. So understanding them, picking them is definitely an important aspect for you. But how do you kind of feel, with the changing role of a CFO? And as even Neeraj mentioned, and I think we all always believed at our time that CA is normally more of a person who sits at the back end, manages, the last step of all the front end work that's done, and sirf hame books de dete hain and all of that. So now that whole perspective, whole thing has changed. So, how do you see a CFO's presence at the board, or keeping his word, or maybe the seat at the table, as we always say in a corporate world? How do you see that? How effective is that in today's world?
It has changed dramatically. It is no longer that back end role. Honestly, if a CFO has a equal say, as I said, it has an equal fiduciary responsibility to the multiple stakeholders. So on operational basis, we might be reporting into the CEO, but technically we are actually reporting into the various stakeholders, whether it's the board, whether it's the audit committees or the other committees or the investors. At every place you are the direct controller and owner of what the things are. So as a business, a CEO might give a very, let's say a rosy plan in terms of, or a rosy outlook of what's likely to happen. But it always gets validated when the CFO sort of validates and says, we do believe either our order book is looking good, profitability is expected to be good. All those are sort of CFO becomes the role of sort of certifying what the CEO says. Today I meet almost like 1 or 2 investors every week, and most of the questions are less on the financials, but more on the business strategy about it. And it's not that I know the business strategy 100%, but it to a certain extent is also validation of what the CEO has been saying or the other business stakeholders have been saying. In the boardroom, the traditional today, the numbers are readable. We don't talk too much about how the company has performed. We talk about the highlights of what it has performed, but the more important part it tells about is how are we forward looking wise, that sort of confidence. Can you achieve this? That is what the board looks at you when you are doing this profile. And I think so that's a very important change that has happened for the CFOs. Many today, when you look at a CFOs, many CFOs are actually on the board of the companies, but it doesn't matter even if they are not, because the KMP position in the Companies Act has made them almost like the board member in sort of disguise, if you had to call, who has gotten that responsibility to validate and do the right thing. So it is a very, very strategic role that has changed, whether it comes to mergers, acquisitions, whether it comes to your investor relations, whether it comes to enterprise risk management. CFO, majority of the companies you will see CFOs either managing the enterprise risk portfolio or being a part and parcel of the enterprise risk committee. That's the nature of diversity it has brought into it. And these are all, as I said, all out of syllabus questions which you have learned over the period of time. The good part is if you get these opportunities, even if they mean hard work, grab it. And it will benefit you at some point of time. Knowledge will never, you will rather, I will put it like this, you never know which knowledge will help you at what part of your life.
Definitely agree. I think that's a very, very key point, because, and as I think Neeraj even earlier mentioned, there are some subtle things that we, subconsciously kind of gather during our, education time, like time management, diversification or multitasking, which at that time as students we don't understand, but we only value that when we kind of pick it up later. So yeah, Neeraj, coming on to you, and I'm not going to ask this question to Vineet because Vineet comes from a technological background, or a company which is within technology and the other. So I'm sure it's easy for him. But, from your perspective, because, you're into a more, consumer kind of a company, not a technology kind of a company. But we are seeing that things are changing on the technology side, even from a finance perspective. And I remember from our prior discussion, you do have interest within the changing aspects of, you can say digitalization or enhanced technology parameters and stuff. So how do you look at that change for any organization within the finance world? How the finance verticals are changing for that?
Yeah, very good question, Ruchi. And the answer is massively. I mean, from the time we started looking at some of these core financial processes and the collateral processes that are linked with the financial processes in the companies, I'm talking about business processes and finance processes both. But coming, on the finance processes, from moving from an entirely a manually driven process environment, probably some 2 decades ago or 2.5 decades ago, where even the general ledger was written manually. Trial balance was prepared manually. The big KRA of the accounts team was to ensure the trial balance matches at the end of a week, day, month, whatever was the periodicity of that work. So that was the specialization required, where you needed to know how to manage the manual humongousness of the entire process, and of course then the related controls etc. were designed that way. All that has changed completely. It has changed. So the first stage of that change was the ERPs, which took over substantially the manual aspects of how the entire finance and the related business processes were being transacted. I guess we are now entering the second stage of this evolution, where the finance teams or the accounts teams and the finance teams which are into transactional process management would need to understand that, I guess, it's a matter of 2 or 3 years or 5 years, we will have bots, we will have RPAs take over the transactional workload. So, in fact, even if it's not happening on its own, finance teams should ensure it happens. So what do I mean with that? What I mean by that is that a very conscious effort to come out of the transactional workload, especially work that is rule-based, work processes that are which are repeatable, which need not have human intelligence every time at every transactional level. Completely automate, digitize that, and come out of it. And that bandwidth that gets created is what gets then connected with the strategy and the business support. And this is a big change, because now I'll give you one example. The indirect tax management, transactional side of indirect tax management pre-2017 versus the GST transactional management post-2017, by the very design of the GST law and its structure, it is consciously designed to align with digitized environment. Now, if we are not going to use that optimally, because now it's a government which is creating that environment and giving that framework to connect the APIs, whether from a compliance point of view, whether from reconciliation, matching, filing, whatever. So the onus is on us to actually leapfrog the digitization of financial processes and create these centers of excellence around shared services, where again a combination of digital focus, digitized focus, and of course to the extent there are some decisions still needed, that's how human beings come in and play the role. My own view is in the next 5 years, 60 to 70% of the transactional work that finance teams currently still do, can be easily automated, and we shouldn't feel afraid, and we shouldn't feel defensive about this entire shift that's happening. and we shouldn't try and wish it away. Rather, we should embrace it for a very simple reason. In my own experience, the kind of digitization we have done in Blue Star, we've not had a situation where we had to look at any role cut or any headcount cut. Nothing. In fact, if at all, we've realigned people's roles in such a way where now the work that they are having, the profiles have undergone a change. So that's the focus that is needed from CFOs, not just CFOs, the entire finance leadership team. CFO can do only as much. It is actually the second level people or even frontline people whose ideas around how digitization can help finance become highly predictable and highly dependable. So we were expected to be disciplined operators, I would say, about 15 years ago or 20 years ago. Finance was supposed to be a very disciplined operator, 9 to 9, 9 to 10, from morning till night. Come, do your work, make sure accuracy is there, make sure audits don't throw up any surprises, make sure no shocks come out. Be a disciplined operator, look at the vouchers carefully, look at the POs carefully, look at the authorizations carefully, control this, that. So from being a controller mindset, from being an operator who was expected to be disciplined, finance is now expected to become a strategic contributor. And that's what Vineet also said. And it's not just the CFO. The point I'm trying to make is it's not just the CFO, it's the finance function entirely, right from at least middle management upwards, if not 100% of the team. And similarly, I would like to touch upon even the practicing CFOs. So this is not just necessarily a statement I'm making for the CAs who are in industry. Even practicing CAs, when they align, when they work with let's say their clients who are in industry, obviously, I guess their role should become less transactional, because let's say if income tax has already moved towards a faceless assessment, GST is already substantially automated. There is hardly any interface with the department by design. Departments will have some reason to interact, but then the substantial part has gone away. So how should the role of practicing CA, a small and a medium practicing firm, evolve? The only opportunity for them is to become strategically oriented in their alignment with their clients, whether it's an SME client or a large client or small client, it doesn't really matter. So the strategic orientation is an imperative that all chartered accountants must consider very seriously, because maybe we have a window of another 2 years, maybe 3 years, at best 5 years. In 5 years' time, this profession, in terms of expectations, will look extremely different, very different. And this is an opportunity. I don't see this as a challenge. I don't see this as an adversity. I don't see this as oh my God, what am I going to do? This is what I know. So let's learn. Let's learn something new. Let's learn technology. Let's learn what data analytics means. Let's learn how the entire technology is evolving beyond ERP. To say that, look, yes, automation. Yeah, of course, I have an ERP. Not good enough. Not going to be good enough anymore. So it's going to be a must-have, skill which chartered accountants must start embracing at all levels, senior, junior, middle levels. Rather than a good to have, a nice to have skill. That's my view.
And Vineet, I'm just going to pick up from what Neeraj said. Neeraj has actually set expectations for people that finance guy, matlab 9 se 9 kaam karega hi karega. It's like that. But mujhe, while I was hearing, I really felt that, all three of us being chartered accountants are sitting on a Sunday and talking. So definitely family and personal lives do kind of take a back. But definitely we, and all of us actually look at work life in some way. So just wanted to know, Vineet, what are some of your passions or personal interests? Let's forget the CFO part of Vineet, but let's understand Vineet as a person himself, and want to understand what are some of your passions, interests, and how do you kind of take time to manage them?
Actually, a very bad question. I can give a very ideal answer, but Let me also
Because I'm
correct.
sure you have, you have US also to be managed. So you're not only working India time, but I'm sure you're working the US time also. So out of the 24 hours, I'm sure 16, 18 hours are kind of gone. So by then, whatever, maybe once a month, if I have to take it that way, or maybe a weekend a month, how do you manage it? Or,
Yeah,
what do you really like doing?
so our life has now become now from 9 to 9 to it's 24/7, so the technology, I have one device in each room, I get connected to something pings up, you're always connected and there. But having said that, honestly, the work-life balance, uh, it's my passions are obviously I'm a sports enthusiast. I play squash, badminton. Unfortunately, because of this pandemic, there has been a huge gap that has laid into it. But again, I didn't take a formal squash training or a badminton training. We learned, and once you know how to play a one racket game, it's easy to catch up the second one very quickly. The other thing is I try to distract myself at some point of time by watching some movies. I'm a big movie buff. It's a big distraction because there is only you're in a receptive mode, not in a thinking mode. So you need that sort of a thinking also. I like a lot of adrenaline sports. I have done tandem skydiving a couple of years back, whereby it was all initially very fun, but when I went up to that 10,000 feet from where you have to make the actual jump, I said, "Why am I doing it?" You know, but actually it's just that fun of falling free fall was also a nice thing to experience. For first, it's just you go up. It takes 15 minutes for you to go up. It takes less than 5 minutes for you to reach down, and that entire experience was fantastic. Uh, I do read a lot. I like reading a lot of management books, not autobiographies, but honestly, but more of conceptual and thematical in terms of that opens up your mind in terms of your day-to-day applications. Once you start reading it engrossly, actually you can see how a lot of things can get applied on your day-to-day life. So that's how I think. So me as a person, again, I have two daughters who are now on the verge of getting into. They are already into colleges, but now getting into their masters sort of it. So do spend of time. They are unfortunately not into the commerce profession. Me and my father and my grandfather, we all were from the finance and administration function. So I sort of challenged them to say that we are three generations of munshis, to go and do something different. The world is far
No, that's
different.
the reason they didn't get into being a munchi again.
Now also helping them in terms of understanding because they give us a lot of knowledge now. It's not longer me preaching them. They also share a lot of knowledge with us as a part and parcel of the thinking. So that's how, and lastly, I have also a 6-year-old Labrador who keeps me occupied in terms of his energy. So that's how my typical life has been. As I said, last 18 months has been almost like 24/7. And I enjoy to be workaholic, there was a gap of when I changed one of my jobs, there was a gap for the first 15 days were great. I had no mails, nothing. It was fantastic. But 16th day, my hands started shivering, How is that? So you are groomed in such a fashion that you need something to creatively constantly keep on thinking. And that probably keeps us alive and awake in terms of, our job, which is becomes so demanding these days that you don't get credit for doing the right things, but you get hammered for doing even one small wrong thing. So that's the reality of how the things are.
You're right, Vineet, and I'm sure when you have your Labrador, I'm sure that's the biggest part to kind of keep you busy once you're back home. So yeah, Neeraj, what about you? I understand you have a flair in terms of travel and going out. So how do you manage that with your hectic schedule?
Yeah, yes, travel is definitely I love, because again my roots go back to Dehradun, which is so close to nature, and that's how growing up days were very close to nature. So I love that. I love being wherever possible. Of course, pandemic is kind of spoiling that show. But anyway, so that's one part which really stresses me tremendously. The other is the music. I do play some musical instruments whenever I get time. So I'm a bit into that, not professionally. I mean, just for, and again, that's something I find quite, to disconnect with some other thoughts and to get connected with a very different environment. It helps a lot. So that's what helps. I guess one has to do it occasionally to in order to make sure you are taking yourself away. I also like to read. I mean, now in fact reading has taken a new dimension of listening, and I've somehow got hooked on to listening books on Audible. I find it reasonably convenient and reasonably effective. Yeah, so I try to do that. I try to read at least one book a month. Again, a variety of subjects, topics. The latest one that I'm reading now is called Diamonds in the Dust. This is a book by Saurabh and his partners. Very good book, excellent book for. So it's quite aligned with our profession, but it's a very good book. I would recommend if others are interested. So I do that, and of course, the other thing I'm passionate about is. I occasionally write blogs. I contribute articles. So writing also is an outlet for me at times, articulating, and then opportunities like this where I can speak and contribute my knowledge, my learnings. I like to do that because I feel that that's one way to give back to society at large. What somebody would have given us. End of the day, we have learned few things because somebody taught us, formally or informally. So what can we do to probably contribute back to few more people based on our experience and learnings? And so those opportunities of I even take few professional classes in some management schools occasionally. So some of those things, a combination of that is probably what I try to do.
But Neeraj, that is again connected with work. I hope your family is, you're able to kind of take some time with your family too.
So that's a travel bit. That's a travel bit
That's a
where
travel bit, okay.
the family really, that's a family time. And so we have two boys, both grown ups, and they are now just about getting into their career zone. So that does free up a little bit time from that phase of life when one is actively involved in their education. So that is kind of getting settled. So yes, so family time is what matters a lot. And usually, I like taking small vacations at least 3 or 4 times a year. Some 4 or 5 days each. And that if you break that monotony, you just plan, unplanned, whatever it is, you just go out, and that's a good opportunity to be closer to the family, away from work, and do what you feel like doing.
No, and I think both of you are right. And I think I feel personally is also it kind of frees space for you guys in terms of picking more. It's like, you have a vessel that was full, so you now emptied it so you can take in more. Now that's how it works. So yeah, no, thanks. That's really nice. So we've known a lot about yourself, your careers, but I would say this is just just the start of your phase, first phase. So what are you looking forward for yourself? And I'm going to make it like a typical question, interview question, which you may be asking a couple of other people, So it's my chance to kind of quiz you and say, how do you look at yourself in the next 5 years down the line, if I have to ask that? Neeraj, for you.
Yeah, it's a good question. So if you're hinting retirement,
I'm not. I am actually thinking that it's more than retirement. Retirement is just nothing within your scope.
Correct. So that's certainly something not on my mind at all, even with a far stretch of imagination. I mean, the organizational milestones aside, whatever organizational milestones are there in terms of the career moves, See, I feel there is definitely an opportunity to start what I think will be a second innings. This is the first innings, which at some stage will need to come to a close. And the second innings, whenever that gets started, for me, I can talk about that. I do see myself in a whichever role, whichever format, adding value to whichever interaction that I end up having, whether it's an organization, whether it's a set of people, whether I get to coach or mentor a set of next generation of leaders. I would like to do that, and I would like to definitely make at least give back part of what I might have acquired in the last whatever years, and anything around my being able to contribute value is what will excite me. Though I'm not clear in my mind what that should mean, but clearly there will be a second innings. That much I'm sure in my
It
mind.
has to be.
How long that innings lasts again is entirely unknown, but definitely one would want to. And I guess we get so accustomed to this heavy duty, a lot of thinking work that we do. I can't visualize myself not in that frame of mind where we are thinking, contributing, and then it's like we get like a doctor or surgeon. How can you expect a surgeon to stop surgery, right?
Yes.
A surgeon will learn and keep. So we are the financial surgeon, so we have to do something about that. So that's what I think. I think ideas will get shaped up. More clarity will emerge as some more time passes by. But I do intend to stay and remain active.
Vineet, what about you?
So I still have another decade of sort of official professional life, if I had to call it.
So let me put that kind of a caveat saying that I am not intending to ask anything in terms of retirement, because I don't want great people like you to retire and come out of the professional career. Definitely, I want you to kind of, rise high as much as possible. But just, I'm just playing that role of, the quiz today. And I'm saying if I am at the board, I have the chance to kind of interview you. Let me put you those questions which normally are, ask the people, that how do you look yourself for in the next 5-10 years, as you said. So caveats attached.
No, so yeah, I was also not hinting at retirement. Honestly, as I said, there's still a decade is a pretty long term. So definitely a lot of energy and a lot of things I still believe are left to be done. On the way, there will be more challenges that will be coming on the way. And I would love to, whenever I hang on my boots, I would love to leave a sort of signature mark in terms of a transformation or a sort of a value creation that you have done, which is there to last for a longer period of time, and not because of people want me to be recognized because of that, but that's good for the organization. So we are all working for organizations, and honestly, though the investor community keeps on picking on us every looking at how we are performing quarter on quarter, we as a management team are thinking much beyond. We are looking at how this organization can sustain for the next 50 years, 100 years. So we are trying to. So for us, every year is like laying down and strengthening the foundation of that concept. And as Neeraj was mentioning, there are so many things happening in our professional life. At some point of time, if the life offers me an opportunity after my official responsibility, maybe I would like to get into an entrepreneurship mode, which has been one of my sort of aspiring thing, but couldn't turn into a reality. There are so many ideas. Technology remains the backbone of everything you do. Today, a simple a mom and pop store around your house has become technologically and digitally stronger, whereby you can order and pay and do a lot of things. And just imagine what will happen 5 years from now. This is the pace of technology that is happening. So a lot of thinking at some point of time. Yes, I definitely, as Neeraj was also mentioning, I also love to travel. Honestly, forgot mentioning that. And my way of traveling is go to different countries, and I try to take their public transportation because it's the best way to see the city. I love to go and eat and experiment a lot of different cuisines. The one normal rule I follow is whenever you're outside India, try to avoid Indian food. Not because Indian food is bad, but the best Indian food you get is in India. So why do you want to try that? Try to learn those cuisines there. So I would love to travel. There are so many places unexplored. And I'm not a great sightseeing person. I'm more of a you go there, relax, enjoy the day, don't have any agenda, just roam around. That's the best way of enjoying a travel for me.
I'm sure the agendas and the calendars you've already been doing for so many, you always do on your work front. So at least your, I would say, outings or your own personal pleasure time should not be calendarized, is how I'm sure you would be looking at it. Okay. So Vineet, and again, just an offbeat question, but do you help your wife in the kitchen?
Yes, in consuming whatever she prepares.
That's a great answer.
I'm a particular cook. I never tried to cook on my own. And now these days, with the click of a button, everything available has made me even more complacent on that particular front. But yeah, there are few things I do very well. I can cook Maggie very well. I can cook pakoras very well. So those are those are the only thing I have gone closer to, helping my wife in the kitchen.
That's nice. So, and Vineet, I didn't ask you the digitalization question because I know that's now within your, blood, I would say as such, because being with a technological company, being already, if the business is giving such advantages, why not take it? So I'm sure you've already taken that. I would like to just shift one more gear and to kind of get into understanding from you, you have such great experience, such enriching experience. I know you've already shared a lot of insights about your journey, stuff and things, for our viewers and our young chartered accountants. But what is some, maybe forgotten mantras or maybe them secret mantras laying down in your, basket, which you would like to come out with to help our, chartered accountants. And again, when I say chartered accountants, it could be anyone. It could be even people like me with that experience who may still learn from you and kind of take my career in the way that I am shaping up as. So, your words of wisdom, if I have to put them.
Yeah, I would say break your life into three parts, in terms of your career life, professional career life. The first few years are hard work, very much slogging, if I have to use that word. Burn your midnight oil and keep on working hard. But eventually, after a point of time, let's say after the first 5 to 7 years of in your career, you have to start working smartly. Because what brought you up to that level, let's say you slog, the company recognizes you, you move up the career. People start becoming, start taking things granted, saying, I work hard and that's the outcome of my success. The outcome is success and I just get it. Yes, it's true, but it's not true, because remember, after a point of time, the funnel starts becoming narrower in terms of the roles and responsibilities or the opportunities that are available in the market. And what makes a big differentiator between a hard worker and a person who sort of succeeds into the next role is the smart work that has to come along with. So people many times forget, people try to measure and are not ready to acknowledge this fact that I work 12 hours a day, I slog for the company, but I don't get recognized. It doesn't happen that way. In the first few years, you get promotion every after 2 years, 3 years, after 5 years. Today, if I have to say in 16 years, my title has not changed. I've been the chief financial officer in any company, but the promotion is not the measure of your success after a point of time. It's the responsibilities you carry. It's the respect that and credibility that you earn amongst your stakeholders. And it's also the ability to influence the things. You may not be owning a particular thing, but does your word in the company or in the boardroom have enough weightage to influence a decision? And that, I think, so is a very, very important thing. It's far difficult than said, and you need to make very, very conscious efforts to actually move in that direction. Please don't I'm not saying that after 7-8 years hard work is not important. Hard work is important, but it has to be complemented with smart work. smart thinking. Business, as I mentioned, learn business. What business does. Many people, when I ask them a question, hey, what does your company do? I have seen 70 to 80% of the people not being able to give a right answer. Their answer is very templatized in terms of their thinking. So, my company does software. So what does software do? Beyond one level, two level of granularity, people are not able to answer. So that's very important. The other part is become disciplined. I think so. It's a very, very important part. When I say discipline, in the sense, I'm not talking of a time discipline only. I'm talking of a discipline and a certain routine that you set for yourself, whether it's reading, whether it's understanding, whether it's sort of structuring your thinking. Get a me time within the professional time you spend for the company to think about your things. Today, with this virtual platform, everything has become transactional. So we are almost locked on to the screen for 7 or 8 hours a day. But all of them are very, very transactional. Some agenda is defined and you do it. There is very limited amount of time whereby I do miss that in-person office meetings whereby we are all in a room and we are brainstorming each other. That, I think so, the virtual environment has taken away. So do try to find out that brainstorming time in terms of where, make a fair assessment. Don't become complacent at any point of time. Today also, for me, we have achieved a lot of recognitions and awards, but that's only, we say, take a pat on your back, take a pat for a minute. But now your bar is different. Your raise your bat. The competition is you're your own competition now. Even if, let's say, you have achieved the excellence, you are now your own competition. Next year, you can't say I did the same thing. So you have to constantly keep on thinking, challenging yourself, and push yourself out of the comfort zone. If tomorrow you land yourself into a situation whereby everything is falling in place for you without much effort, it's like perfect environment set for you. Take that as a signal that something is going to go wrong at some point of time. Or if there is a bad situation that emerges, you are the first candidate who's going to be probably checked out of the list. So try to push yourself out of the comfort zone. Don't follow money, follow careers. Money will flow in, and even if, let's say, money is not there available to you in the initial days, when the catch up happens with a full compounding effect. So keep that in mind. If you pick the right career and stick to that career, the money will flow in at the right point of time.
Thanks, Neeraj. Neeraj, I'm just going to twist the question a bit for you here, because I remembered you mentioned that there were in the chartered firm that you were in, you were the first successful story for them, in terms of clearing in the right time. And I'm sure that pain in chartered accountancy does happen. People around do that kind of. So any words of wisdom, or maybe I'm sure you were influenced, or people did kind of demotivate you down the line somewhere, that CA time se to hota nahi hai, something like that. So how did you kind of take it, or maybe some things that you would like to talk about that for our listeners, because sometimes that's the scare people have, even in terms of entering, or even if they've entered and if they are facing something like this, how do they handle it, or what's your words of wisdom for people like this? And again, it's not only limited to that, it could also be in terms of getting stuck in your career at times. It's not moving. So something around that you would like to kind of motivate or share, or
No, very, very good questions, Ruchi. See, the point is that a lot of what you end up doing in life, and this I'm saying a bit generically, not necessarily from a finance profession point of view, actually depends on two things. First, how passionate are you about what you're doing? So if someone is passionate or passionate enough, deeply passionate enough, and you're really interested in what you're doing, and you see yourself doing something valuable when you finish that initiative, everything else will be kind of transitionary. And those obstacles, those challenges will come, exams and all is part of that entire journey. But the more important thing is, I guess a lot of, you talked about the student stage. So obviously, and I've seen many of my friends struggle, many of and all of us have seen those, we have known people in that space. The reason, my own assessment is, I guess people lack sufficient passion and commitment. So that's point number one. So if you have passion and commitment, the outcome will happen. It may take some time, it may take longer than what probably you want or wish, but it will happen. The second and the equally more important, again from the point of view of budding students or students who are in the process, or people who have just started the career early on and might be feeling stuck. Unless you respect your profession and unless you respect what you do, highly unlikely others will respect what you're doing. And again, a lot of times people get into a cynical mode that, look, why did I get into this? So much of work, 8 years, 5 years, 6 years, look at my compensation, somebody else, into that comparative mode. And really speaking, we don't necessarily give the kind of respect that our profession deserves. The end of the day, this profession, we are all here because of primarily being in this profession, right? We are having this conversation. So unless we genuinely respect, unless we give due importance to what this profession has given us, unless we want to give back to the profession, we are likely to have a problem. The third thing I want to say is it's time that finance professionals see themselves first as a business leader or a business manager, designations aside. First, see yourself as a business manager, then see yourself as a finance manager. Or alternatively put, I would see us as as business managers who happen to specialize in finance, or business leaders who happen to have a finance specialization. Unless we see ourselves in that frame, and this is the point I guess Vineet has also emphasized rightly a number of times, is that get connected with what is your bread and butter, right? The bread and butter is not the books of accounts. The bread and butter is not the audits or the return filings that we do. The bread and butter is what the business does. And this is equally true for CAs in practice. So unless you see yourself as a business advisor, not as an income tax advisor, not as an audit advisor, that is a specialization, I agree. But the primary connection is with the business. So unless there is this frame of passion, there is this commitment to respect your profession, things tend to be difficult. And once you start following some of these approaches, things start becoming a lot better. The next point I want to make is around learning. We talked about it. The learning should never stop constantly, and it's not just about reading. It's not just about the new circular has come, I've read it. Some institute has given some new guidance note, I've read it, I'm learning. No, that's not learning. Learning is far more holistic than just reading functional circulars or regulatory guidelines. Learning is far beyond. It's about mindset. What kind of mindset do we carry as professionals? Do we have a learning mindset, a growth mindset, or do we have a fixed mindset? And in fact, if the viewers are interested, there's a very very impactful work done by an American psychologist by the name of Carol Dweck. And if you're interested to read her work, and there are some YouTube videos, she's done a fantastic research on this subject of mindset. So we need to just consider that, how do we carry a learning mindset, or are we having a fixed mindset? I'm stating the obvious, but it's important. And again, the reason I'm stating the obvious because we have all witnessed certain external events in the last few years, which have given our profession and some professionals, a little bit of a dent in the image. Just keep in mind, there are 3 attributes which defines finance professionals like us, which are non-negotiable, no matter what. The first is ethics, the second is integrity, and the third is transparency levels. And there is absolute, regardless of whether you're a fresher, whether you have 5 years in the profession, 40 years in the profession, 30, 20, doesn't matter. There cannot be any compromise, because end of the day we are in a fiduciary role. We are dealing with money, and we are dealing with the monetary outcome of that business. And if we can't be trusted for ethical work, integrity, and the transparency levels, then who else will be? In that context, I guess I would encourage professionals to speak up, whether you're in practice, whether you're in industry, don't feel afraid of speaking up. Worst, what will happen? The worst that can happen is you will be looking out for another job, but you will be looking for a job. You won't be looking for a career, right? And that's difficult. It's easier said than done, but having that ability to speak up, whether in a board meeting, whether to the CEO, whether to the senior leadership team, in the right context, is a very, it's something that is a given or should be taken as a given now in the context of how the external environment has changed in the last so many years. And it requires conviction. It requires confidence. It requires a lot of self-confidence. I mean, you can't just simply say that, look, okay, fine, I'll go. And it's not about necessarily about being a whistleblower all the time. It's about contextualizing and speaking up the right thing at the right time to the right set of people, and then finding a solution. It's not just about dumping a problem on someone else's table. It's about highlighting, flagging some relevant issues and giving a solution. So just to sum up, Ruchi, I mean, there are these 5 important, I would say, advice points, you can say, or suggestions that I would like to leave the viewers with. First is be adaptable. Not being adaptable is not a choice, so please be adaptable. Be open to adapting yourself. The second one is do not be afraid of the environment. A lot of times we are so strongly in our comfort zone, environment has changed, laws have changed, regulations have changed, we continue to believe वो चलता रहेगा, ऐसा होता नहीं है. The environment has changed, learn to stand up to the environment and measure up to that. Do not feel afraid of the environment. Environment will change. And we need to learn how to. That's why the adaptability becomes important. The third point is continue to focus on strengthening the technical and business competencies. I'm refraining from saying functional competencies. Technical anyway includes functional. So what are those technical and business competencies needed for you to be contributing value? Look at that and continue to focus on what is needed to be done to strengthen that as a continuous exercise. The fourth thing is have a long-term career orientation, because a lot of times the youngsters I've met, I interact with, they seem to be in a mode that, look, I want to have a career within finance. I want to do only A, B, C, D, or E. Great, have specialization if you want, but carry a slightly longer term career orientation. Don't just stay focused on the next 3 years, 5 years, 2 years, next 1 year. The career will run for many, many years, many decades. So have a long term career orientation. And the last one is be open to change. Because if you're not going to be open to change yourself, how can you expect the business to change? How can you expect the stakeholders to change? We all get into this complaining mode that, look, now this is a problem, that is a problem, I have tried that. But we have to ask ourselves the question, how much have we changed? Have we made a conscious attempt to change ourselves, change our way of working, change our style of interacting, change our orientation? You'll get the answers. So these are the 5 thoughts I had. To conclude my thoughts, look, just like doctors are trained to cure patients, a physician is trained to cure patients, we are trained to contribute value in monetary and non-monetary terms. We are trained. We should never forget that, and we should ask ourselves this question. So can you visualize a doctor who's regularly seeing patients and the patients are not getting cured? How would that doctor's profile look like if patients go to that doctor and the patients are coming back with the same disease or a pattern? How can we visualize finance folks not contributing value? So we are trained. Be proud of what we are trained for. Respect what we do, and continue to learn. I think those are some of the attributes we must keep reminding ourselves. And it's about, at times we tend to forget. We tend to believe that things are going on fine, but I guess we have to remind ourselves continuously. So those are some of the thoughts. Ruchi.
That's really nice, Neeraj. And I think, sorry, Vinit, go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to add to one thing which what Neeraj mentioned. In your life is not going to be linear, just every time it's going to be success. Please have some failures, failures will teach you a lot of things. The difference is, if you are going to learn out of failures, you'll be successful. If you are going to repeat the same mistakes, you're going to fall again and again. Number two, when the failures happen, it's okay to take up a responsibility. Most of the companies, you will see people, failing and then sort of running away from responsibilities. That's a perfect recipe for disaster. I have had my sets of failures in my life, and I have stood up and very categorically said, yeah, I took the right decision. Today, let me be very honest. I worked with multiple companies. Somebody used to handle that job and do that job at some point of time. It's very easy for me in hindsight now to come and criticize that, hey, this should have been done rightly, and that's because I'm wiser by hindsight. I'm not wiser by that. I don't know what circumstances led to taking that particular decision. And number two, even if it's a problem, it's now my problem. I have to solve it, right? So own up and third part, which I have seen in many companies, what happens is, there are, and finance function gets sort of imaged in that category is people tend to believe that we are here to tell what the problems are. And it's partly true. Most of the times you will tell why you can't do few things. But, the expectation when I say you have to be a business leader, what it means is you have to also tell the problem statement and also tell the multiple solutions, not only a single solution. You have to come out with multiple solutions, and you have to own up and say, if I'm a decision maker, I would suggest this is the right option within that set of decisions, and irrespective of whether it's successful or not. Strategy is ultimately which in hindsight you can tell is success. You never hear any failure strategies being defined, and they were not designed for being failure. They are only in hindsight being told as failures. So every strategy, learn from those mistakes and keep on emerging again.
I just want to add, Ruchi, sorry to barge in. I just want to add, just building on Vineet's point. If you remember, this is a very famous dialogue in this movie, Three Idiots. There's a scene where, these three friends are talking to each other, and one very powerful dialogue, which says कि कामयाबी के पीछे मत भागो, excellence पे focus करो, कामयाबी झक मार के तुम्हारे पीछे आएगी. So focus on excellence, कामयाबी will follow you. So that's a very powerful thought. I felt.
No, that's really nice, and I think hearing you both is so nice. It's like flowing of gyan, which is like let it come. I don't want to stop it, but it's just that we will have to kind of hold up on the. So before we really close or do anything, I just have quick five rapid questions, one word answers kind of stuff for both of you, and nothing related to your CFO role. It's more on your personal front. And since I have Neeraj talking last, I'm going to start with Neeraj first. Sure. Neeraj, your favorite place to go out except Dehradun? I mean to say not Dehradun, because that's your primitive. Any other place that you'd like to go?
Munnar.
Okay. Yeah. Your favorite cuisine?
My favorite cuisine is, you'll be surprised, but it is dal khichdi.
Oh, wow. That's nice.
People may not like it, but I like it.
Okay. Your favorite singer? Because you're a music lover.
Kishore Kumar.
Okay. Your favorite color?
Favorite color is shades of yellow.
Shades of yellow. Maybe I can just ask a different way. Your favorite movie?
Oh, yeah, that's a difficult one.
That's a difficult one.
That's a very difficult one. There are many of them, actually. I mean, I like Raju Irani movies. So since I was thinking Three Idiots, I like some of his movies. They're quite entertaining. So I like his movies.
Thanks. So that's it. Vineet, now your turn.
This is the difficult one.
So Vineet, your favorite app on your phone? You're a tech guy, so I'm going to ask that.
Obviously, we look at the equity markets. Is always the forefront of the Economic Times. Is always on the is there. So business related.
Okay. And which is your favorite place, if I have to ask you? Well, because you mentioned about traveling various countries. So which is your favorite country you'd like to always kind of go on?
I love New York.
Sorry, I missed that.
New York. New York.
New York. Okay, good. And your favorite attire, if I have to ask? Again, not your.
Yeah, I normally like to go in a very casual attire, like try to be, particularly in outside countries or anywhere, try to be, make you yourself look and feel like a local, and not as the one who has come with all the backpack and everything. Today, the world has changed. Everything is available at the nook and corner of every city. You're not going to the villages, so you don't need to prepare a backpack and carry everything. As I said, I have grown-up daughters, so I don't have to carry the food and all those items either. So that's how I would say.
Your favorite ice cream flavor?
Oh, many. But I like the blackcurrant one.
Okay, black carrot. Okay, and maybe your favorite movie, because you're a movie fan.
Yeah, I have multiple actually. Again, I would go by. I like a lot of action movies. So the Mission Impossible series is very. I like it. The Jason Bourne series is what I like it. I watch it. I don't know if people have watched, but there is a movie. 2 or 3 years back, there was a movie called The Intern, which is by Robert De Niro and Anne Hathaway. If you're not seen, fantastic movie. I believe there is a Hindi adaptation coming in, very light, entertaining. So on flights, typically I try to catch up a lot on movies.
I think you get an additional question. Your favorite sport?
No, favorite sports I like, obviously cricket. I do love, but as I said, I play squash as a personal hobby. Squash and badminton.
That's really nice, and I think it's I would like to really deeply thank both of you for such insightful information. It's really been a very candid and straight from heart kind of thing, and lots of information and learning for our students, young chartered accountants, and even people like me to kind of pick up. Where we talked about really being not complacent. I think that's really a great stuff coming from you guys. And learning, again, knowledge and learning have to kind of be there as part and parcel of our stuff. I think that each of us need to understand, and never stopping, I think, is the game, or I would say the changer for anybody's career. Don't look at your career, as Neeraj said, for the next only 2 years. Your career is like a long-term 40, 50 years, 60 years career. I'm talking when you start your career or when getting into it. So think that way. Yes, you may have smaller plans in terms of what you achieved, as you guys said, but keep in mind that there's a long way to run. So the tunnel is quite big. It's just that we've got stopped somewhere. So it's really nice, and really it was a great discussion. And I hope our listeners would have learned a lot from this. Thanks once again for being here, accepting the invite from the Institute. I think this is going to help bridge the gap at times between the corporate world, because after you've got into corporate, sometimes you kind of are not able to connect with your alma mater. But I think this is a great platform for even the youngsters to come and learn and, pick even small bits. I'm sure out of the whole conversation that we've had, even if people have picked 2 or 3 main things from here, that will be a game changer for them in their own careers. So thanks a lot. Thanks for all your time, your efforts, and thanks for bearing me. I'm sure I was not too picky for both of you. So thanks for it. And best of luck for all your future stuff, and stay connected with Institute. I think Institute would love to have all of people like you supporting and guiding our youngsters. So thanks a lot. Have a great day, and it was a great interaction.
Thanks.
Anything that you'd like to kind of mention, or we can close for the day?
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Ruchi. Thanks for having us, and it was a real pleasure interacting with you. And I thank the Institute office as well for hosting us. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ruchi, and thanks to the Institute for giving us this platform to express something different than what we have been traditionally doing on day-to-day basis. So thank you very much, and all the best to all the students and the fresher community. India offers a lot of potential and a lot of opportunities. Just pick it on the right one and stick to your core passion and commitment. Stay committed.
Thanks to all our listeners, and we'll end for today. And Let's connect on a different call. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.